Welcome back. Today is the fifth and last video for getting you started on learning everyday mathematics. And today I'll be talking about measurement and data. This is Everyday Mathematics Part 5. How to follow a child's curiosity to conquer your math anxiety and help them succeed in math. I'm going to talk about what to look for when your child accepts the invitation into mathematics through the Boco Math Lifestyle, specifically what measurement and data is out there. To recap, Part 1, I talked about following a child's curiosity to tackle your anxiety. My anxiety was about bugs. And if we strengthen our relationship with the subject done in concert with our child, everyone learns. Part 2 was about the easy ways to invite your family into math. Living a Boco Math lifestyle creates a lot of math-rich experiences, ones that can strengthen your relationship with the subject and your child. In parts 3 and 4, I talked about numeracy, operations in algebra, and geometry and spatial relations. A lot of math topics emerge from a Boco Math lifestyle. It'll keep you busy. Let's take a closer look at some topics in the subject of math. These topics, again, they are revisited over and over again for many years. They just get more and more complicated, and we are expected to write more in order to figure things out instead of playing with toys and sorting rocks and things like that. So the subjects or the topics within math are numeracy, operations in algebra, geometry and spatial relations, and today's focus, measurement and data. Measurement answers questions like how big, how hot, how many minutes? We run into this at the doctor's office for well checks or sick checks. We experience this when we talk about temperature and other measures of weather, and usually, in my house at least, these conversations are done to determine clothing, or if we're lucky, maybe the camping gear we need to pack. We also talk a lot about when it's going to be time to leave. How many minutes until we leave? How many minutes till we get there? Lots of conversations around that. And one of the most important things that makes measurement special is that it includes both a number and a unit. So at the doctor's office, your child might weigh 100 pounds. The temperature outside is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And how many minutes till we leave? We're leaving in 5 minutes. Saying both the number 5 and the unit minutes, or the number 68 and the unit degrees Fahrenheit, or the number 100 and the unit pounds are very important. And it's good to practice this from an early age so that in algebra, those units don't get lost when doing calculations. Data is about counting something specific. Naturalists count animals. Sometimes my daughter is a naturalist with her stuffies. So counting toys, counting books, anything around the house. Anything you can count, you can turn into data. So in preschool, there's playing with measurement tools. So like a ruler or a yardstick is a good thing to play with for measuring length. Or if there is a stopwatch with buttons to click, that might be an interesting thing to measure time and watching seconds and minutes pass and things like that. Or there's scales to measure weight or to compare weights of different things. And sorting. This is like preschool 101, sorting. the dolls from the trucks, or sorting the circle pieces from the square pieces, or whatever else. That basic sorting, the playing that they do when they're sorting, that is some really important math learning, and specifically data. Beginning learners, they're actually starting to use those measurement tools. I mean, how many kids want to build a fort? I know my kids have been playing with our tape measures for a long time, estimating how big they could make a fort. How long a piece of wood do I need to XYZ? And eventually doing some calculations with those measures. And sorting within sorting. So, my daughter has a ton of My Little Pony toys, and she separates them by which ones are unicorns and which ones are Pegasi and which ones are just regular horses. So that's sorting within sorting. Intermediate learners start writing this stuff down, and they can write it down to make some calculations, like maybe some temperature calculations. And they use it in context of data to make judgments about what it is, the next thing that they're going to do. So maybe they learn the temperature that it is outside, and they use that information to make a judgment about whether they're going to play outside now when it's cool or later when it's really, really hot. If they want to do water play, they might wait till it's really hot. But if they want to play in the sandbox, they might want to do that when it's cooler. So making judgments, tying decision-making into math, that's intermediate and advanced learning. And really advanced learners start actually writing this stuff down and doing statistics and lots and lots of calculations to make decisions. And again, writing the stuff down whenever you have a chance. Just, you could use a piece of chalk on the sidewalk. It doesn't have to be, necessarily a worksheet. You don't need to stop everything and go grab your piece of paper and a pencil, unless you're really excited about something your kid just said, because you've been waiting and waiting and waiting for them to mention math. But writing things down and getting used to writing things, including the units. So write down, it's 68 degrees F when you write down that temperature. Or if you're baking and you're writing down things to half or double the recipe, write down, instead of 1 tablespoon, we need 2 tablespoons. All right, measurement and data that comes up in life. All right, baking. I was just talking about that. In preschool, you know what? Just give the preschoolers a bunch of measuring cups and measuring spoons and let them go make mud pies. That is just a ton of visceral learning when they try to figure out how many 1/3 cups will fit into 1 cup. Beginning learners are using the tools and making observations about measures and doneness. So this is when you just go in the kitchen, and the kitchen is your classroom. You talk about you talk about the temperature of the oven. You talk about the measures of the flour and the sugar and the baking soda and the salt. And you make observations about the size of that and the volume that those things take and things like that. Intermediate and advanced learners, now this is where they might start moving between systems of measurement and developing a little comfort around that. Something along the lines, sometimes some of my cookbooks have things in metric. So they'll say you need, 200 grams of flour. And so, okay, well, I have a measuring cup. What is the equivalent of that? That's some intermediate and advanced learning, especially if you get a piece of paper and do a little chicken scratch to write those notes down. I know you can get on Google and it'll help you make those. It has a little measurement changer thingy. You can figure that out. Well, write that down. Go ahead, just take what you see on the screen and write it on a piece of paper, just to make that a little bit of a habit. Playing games, specifically sports, there is a ton of measurement and data there. Specifically, the data of different players and different teams. So sports fans, step up. This is where you guys get to talk about your favorite team and your favorite players and all of the numbers and the data about those players and teams as evidence for why they are the best team in the league. Getting outdoors, I'm going to reiterate this from a previous video. Getting outdoors is just crazy cool for doing data stuff. In preschool, you can just count the types of plants, count the animals, the types of animals, you can count the clouds, anything else you see outside. You could count the different houses you see, the number of blue houses in your neighborhood versus the number of brown houses in your neighborhood. All preschoolers are all over that stuff. And they're also doing tangible sorting things. Beginners are doing sorting within sorting. So not just counting how many animals we see, but if we see a bunch of dogs and a bunch of cats and a bunch of birds, we can talk about the number of cats and the number of dogs and the number of birds. So that's sorting within sorting, and that is data. Intermediate learners are going to be looking at patterns over time, and this might dip a little toward measurement, where we're looking at the temperature over time or the amount of precipitation over time, or the growth of your garden over time. And advanced learners are making estimates and predictions based on the data and measures that they have taken. And in life, this is just a little aside one. When you go to the doctor's office, there's a bunch of measurement and data. I mean, every time I'm in a well-child checkup, we look at the graph with the doctor about the growth chart and where the kid is on the growth chart. And everyone's favorite, cleaning and tidying up, which can be sorting if anyone is inclined to put the stuffed animals on the bed and the dolls in the toy bin and the clothes in the hamper. Sometimes it's all just picked up and thrown in the closet. But, we all have to make our peace with how cleaning and tidying up happens. But, when that sorting does happen, give everyone a pat on the back that they're doing a little bit of math learning. Our job is to provide math experiences, notice math as it emerges, and talk about it using math words. Talking about measurement and data is going to sound a lot like this. You're going to, first of all, name the tools for measuring. So you use a ruler for length, but you do not use a ruler to measure temperature, right? And also talk about the units of measurement. So there's a ton of them. Inches, feet, yards, miles for length, or metric, centimeters, meters, kilometers for length, degrees Fahrenheit or degrees Celsius, cups, teaspoons, tablespoons, pint, quart, gallon, liters, and milliliters, and pounds and ounces, grams and kilograms. There's a lot of different units that those are good math words for your kids to learn. So use them. For data, this is a little bit of like let's figure it out together. So determine the categories together. So if you're out there walking and you're using your fingers to count how many animals you see, maybe that's going to lead you to say, how about you use your fingers to count the birds and I'll use my fingers to count the dogs. So determining the categories together. Making comparisons. Did we see more dogs than birds or less dogs than birds? Or how about that? We saw the same number of dogs as we saw birds. Advanced learnings, you might start talking about averages. Investigating weather is good for this. So any weather buffs out there, dig in. It's time to celebrate weather in all the different ways that you explore it and investigate it and all those other things. And again, find the words you need in children's books. Libraries are fantastic. Ask your librarians. They will be able to help you find exactly what you're looking for, and I'm always here too. Now, before the end of the video series, I need to say this. No one should slave over worksheets, especially young children. Now, worksheets serve a purpose. Our learners develop familiarity with the symbols used in math, and they use symbols to figure things out. We don't drive around with blocks in our pocket to figure out how, or an abacus either. They need to use the symbols to figure it out eventually. Worksheets also give a succinct summary of how well they understand the symbols and how they work, how those symbols work. However, worksheets should not necessarily be used to teach conceptual math. If your child or children understand the math of life, worksheets will be easier. They will already know the concepts, and all they'll be learning on the worksheet is that symbolic work. They will already know the concepts. No one should slave over worksheets, least of all young learners. So I wrote a guide to learn math from everyday life, because when the world is your classroom, you learn math that matters. That's it. That's Everyday Math Part 5. Talked about measurement and data that emerge from a Boco Math lifestyle. And next, I want you to give it a try. Go for it. I think you know a lot more than you thought you knew, don't ya? You got it. Filter BocoLearning.com messages to your inbox for more support delivered to your fingertips. I've got more goodies coming your way. All right, that's it for measurement and data. And also, that's it for the first 5 videos of learning about everyday math using the Boco Math lifestyle. I hope you are ready to get out there and see math all over the place, and go get some books from the local library to put some good math words to all those things that you and your kids are doing every day. It'll make them super duper smart, it'll make you smart, and it'll make all of their worksheet type math a lot easier because they'll already know it. All right, see you around. Bye.